There was so much news this week, I don't think there is anyone or any company or any brand that wasn't in some way a part of it or impacted by it. Canon, Nikon, Fuji, Sigma, Tamron, Blackmagic, everybody's in the news. We've got big standouts from Nikon on the RED side of things. We've got Fuji with their new cinema camera. We've got cinema stuff from Sigma. We've got an update for Resolve. It's a ton. So let's just jump right into it. So Sigma's first autofocus cine lens is going to arrive on November 6th. It's built for rigs and gimbals with the kind of focus control that shooters expect from cinema glass. The AF Cine line, the 28-45 T2 full frame, is Sigma's first ever autofocus cine lens. It's based on optics from the company's Art line, which I'm shooting on right now, likely their 28-45 f1.8 DG/DN Art, and gains a cine housing with 3 geared rings. It's got a focus ring that offers 200 degrees of rotation and an industry standard gear pitch with dampers to prevent metallic end of throw noise. The aperture ring is declicked, and the 11-blade diaphragm is designed for smooth defocus rendering. Autofocus is driven by Sigma's high response linear actuator, tuned for precise tracking with near silent operation. This is suitable for action work, rapid focus shifts on gimbals, and documentary style movements. Practical touches include an 82mm front filter thread, a 95mm outer diameter for matte box compatibility, and a removable ¼ support foot. It comes in L mount and Sony E mount varieties, with the Sony version measuring at 153mm. It's weighing in at 1.2 kilograms. Pre-orders are live right now. This lens is coming in at $3,399 and £2,599 in the UK. But that's not all. Sigma also announced their 35mm f1.2 DG2 art lens. This is a second generation full frame prime that's smaller and lighter than its predecessor while improving optical AF performance. It's currently available for the Sony E and L mounts at $1,549 here in the United States, £1,299 in the UK, shipping slated for late September. Additionally, their super long lens that we were expecting, that 20-200, that travel lens, that's an f3.5 to 6.3, that's their DG Contemporary. It aims to cover the wide and the tele all-in-one lens. It's going to be offered also in Sony E and L mount. It's going to be priced at $999 in the United States, £799 in the UK, and $899 in the greater European continent, with shipping expected by late September 2025. Sigma's also posted official product and behind-the-scenes videos. Pre-orders are live across major retailers for the 35, the 20-200, and the new 28-45mm T2 AF Cine Zoom. We've also got fresh listings for their 135mm f1.4. So Sigma's range now spans Cine, fast primes, versatile super zooms, and firm pricing and timelines. Honestly, it looks like Sigma is really coming to play in the third-party lens market, and I am so excited to see it. But it's not just Sigma. Tamron is also in the game, and according to Sony Addict, Tamron patents are pointing to some ambitious zooms that could fill some serious gaps. So those patents include a 20-70 f2, a 25-200 f2.8 to 5.6, and a 25-100 f2.8. Now, these are patent filings, not product announcements, but they suggest that Tamron is exploring the mid-range and extended range zooms with potentially, a broad appeal. These lenses work well for event work, travel, documentary, and they match up well with some of the lenses that we just talked about from Sigma. So again, always great to see third parties in the mix, in the game, creating competition and pushing each other as much as possible to push both the market and the technology. I'll watch to see if any of these move from patent to product. That 28-70 f2 in particular would be notable if it reaches the market. Next, it looks like DaVinci Resolve is finally going to be getting ProRes RAW support. This has been a long requested addition for workflows centered on Apple's RAW format. Native ProRes RAW support in Resolve means that editors and colorists can work more directly with the files from compatible cameras and recorders without an intermediate transcode. And on productions where mixing codecs or cutting across platforms is necessary, this reduces friction and keeps more of the raw level level grade inside of Resolve. As someone who shoots with cameras and gear like Canon cameras, like DJI drones that can produce ProRes RAW video, this is a very welcomed addition, and it opens up Resolve in a meaningful way. So keep an eye on version notes and exactly how your camera's metadata and debayered options are supported within this update. Next, but staying in the Blackmagic universe, the URSA Cine 12K LF body is going to be keeping all of its performance but shedding the accessories for a lower entry price. So the Blackmagic URSA Cine 12K LF body is listed at $69.95. It includes the fully featured 12K large format platform, no limitations in image quality, but it excludes the accessories bundled with the higher price kits. So there's no shoulder mount, no handles. Some lens mounts are missing certain power options, and it's not coming with the 8TB media module. Instead, this body ships standard EF mount, dual CF Express media module, PL and LPL mounts are available separately. And this 12K full frame sensor features in sensor scaling for 12K, 8K, or 4K at full sensor size, frame rates up to 224 frames per second at 8K, that's in a 2.4:1 crop ratio, and 144 frames a second in 8K at 3.2, that's open gate. It also supports 80 frames per second 12K at 3.2 and 120 frames per second in 12K at 2.4:1. Blackmagic lists 16 stops of dynamic range and the company's latest color science tuned to DaVinci Resolve workflows. The camera records in Blackmagic RAW, can generate H.264 proxies, and ties into Blackmagic Cloud. The build and I/O on this camera, even though it's stripped down, are aimed at high-end sets. This is a super professional camera, a magnesium alloy chassis with a carbon fiber polycarbonate skin, a 12G SDI output, 10G Ethernet, USB-C, XLR audio, built-in ND filters, monitoring including a fold-out 5-inch HDR touchscreen, plus an external color status LCD, and a second 5-inch HDR assist station on the right side with a dedicated focus puller mode. There's also a built-in streaming engine support for RTMP and SRT, Wi-Fi and Ethernet connectivity, and support for the URSA Cine EVF, which is a 1080p OLED screen. The OLPF is matched to the sensor with updated IR filtering. So for productions that already own the rig accessories or work with rental kits, the body-only option cuts down cost without cutting capability. You still get the core of that technology. It also includes DaVinci Resolve Studio out of the box, which is a $300 value. And DaVinci, right, Blackmagic is known for their cinema rigs. They are phenomenal in that area. But another company that's getting into the cinema game is Fuji, and they have just announced their official first digital cinema camera, the GFX Eterna 55, built around a 44 by 33mm sensor and priced pretty firmly at the high end of the cinema space. We heard about the Eterna earlier this year. I got a chance to take a look at it, at least in a glass box at NAB, and it uses the same 100 megapixel class medium large format sensor from Fuji's GFX camera line, but implemented here as a large format video platform with dual gain ISO at 800 and 3200, autofocus using the X Processor 5 with subject recognition for people, animals, birds, cars, trains, planes, and automobiles. So it's a large format 8K sensor with a variable ND. It has 4K 48 in a 4.3 open gate and 6.3K 24 in Super 35 modes. It claims 14.5 stops of dynamic range with that dual ISO behavior. It will record internal ProRes 422 HQ as well as H.265, and it'll handle proxy recording. It'll do external 10-bit uncompressed HDMI and 12-bit RAW output. It's got a 5-inch 16:9 and a 3-inch 3:2 LCD touchscreens. Comes with 20 film simulations plus their F-Log2 and 3D LUT workflows. It'll support both the Fujifilm G and REPL mounts. Comes with Ethernet, Bluetooth, and all the other connections that you'd expect, as well as CF Express and SD card slots, as well as USB-C. But it's not going to come cheap. This camera is going to be priced at $16,500 with pre-orders open and initial shipments planned in October. Lens support spans Fujifilm's entire GFX series, as well as Fuji's large format Primista lenses and various anamorphic and Super 35 options, as well as PL options if you switch to that mount. So Fuji is leveraging its medium format sensor and cinema lens heritage in a purpose-built body. Large format, flexible recording, and PL and G mounts make it a serious initial entry into this market. But speaking of entries into new markets, the Nikon ZR cinema camera. Nikon is taking the ZR and bringing RED color science, RED, a cinema company that they bought last year, and folding all of that technology into a very affordable, very small, full-frame box camera. Now, the Nikon ZR is using a 24.5 partially stacked full-frame sensor, records up to 6K at 60p and 4K 120 when shooting in a Super 35 or APS-C crop mode. It introduces R3D or RED, which is a new RAW video codec designed to cut alongside RED's footage using the same log3 G10 curve and RED wide gamut RGB color science. NRAW and ProRes RAW are also supported, though ProRes RAW is not available at some of the higher resolution and frame rate combos. Now, this camera uses base ISOs of 800 and 6400 and treats those ISOs as metadata information so you can actually make ISO changes in post rather than baking in that gain at capture. Processing this file type is going to require the RED Cine X Pro software. I think this is a super interesting approach as it gives you some of the advantages of RAW, and if they can quickly get support for this format into other NLEs, like Premiere, like Final Cut, like Resolve, I think this is a very novel approach, especially considering the fact that mistakes happen, right? But speaking of mistakes, or speaking of the ability to be flexible in post, another feature that they've added to the ZR is in their audio stack. This is the first mirrorless style camera that's going to come with internal 32-bit float recording. And this is available from the built-in microphones using Nokia's directional technology, as well as from the 3.5mm input. There's also a new digital accessory shoe for two-way communication and power with compatible mics and future XLR adapters. But the body on this camera is tiny. This is a compact camera. It does not have an EVF. It is a very boxy design, but it also has a 4-inch 3 million dot screen, but it also has a 4-inch 3 million dot display that is 16:10 ratio, comes with DCI P3 color, and it's rated for 1000 nits. That means that not only is it more color accurate, it's super bright and it's big, and it is higher resolution than what you normally see on most rear LCDs. Traditionally, you see between 2 and 3 inches, and you normally see about 600 nits, if that, and normally they're about 1 million dots. So there are some just really cool things that they've baked into this camera that I think are just interesting, and I hope that other companies, and Nikon as well, continue to push these other features. 32-bit float, interesting codec options for variable exposure after the fact, and this huge and beautiful display, I think, is a great idea. Now, the camera also has 7.5 stops of in-body image stabilization. It's got subject detection autofocus for people, animals, vehicles, planes. It allows you to do shutter angle control. It has LUT monitoring for up to 10 user LUTs. And it's a fanless design with heat dissipation across the body. Nikon claims that you can shoot for 125 minutes in uninterrupted recording with USB power. I'm assuming that's at a relatively standard room temperature setting, but that's still impressive to do without a fan. From the initial reception that I've seen from some creators online, as well as my spec review on this camera, the couple of areas where this thing, I think, lacks or needs maybe some attention, or where there's some head scratchers. Number one, it does have a CF Express Type B port, which is great, but instead of a second CF Express Type B port, or maybe even an SD card slot, they gave it a micro SD card slot. And the claim is that that slot is actually for loading settings and LUTs, not for actually recording footage. So effectively, this is a single slot camera, which for its size is not terrible, but it would have been nice to have another slot. And while it does include USB-C, mic and headphone jacks, and HDMI, the HDMI port is micro HDMI. As someone who currently shoots with Canon cameras that have micro HDMI ports, I can tell you that that becomes a problem over time when you're buying cables to use monitors and you end up potentially breaking those cables, potentially breaking that port. It's very, very delicate. Maybe the logic here is that with the 4-inch 1000 nit display and LUT support in the camera, especially considering its size, you might not be adding a monitor to this camera, and so the HDMI port really isn't as big a deal, especially if it supports high frame rate or at least high bitrate export via USB-C for setups like mine. But I think honestly, a lot of that can be forgiven considering the price. This thing's coming in at $2,200. And honestly, that gets me pretty excited. That is pretty cool. This thing doesn't really compromise in a lot of areas, and where it does, you can kind of understand. This is a substantial video-focused rework of something like the Z6 III, but at a lower price with red aligned color and 32-bit float audio, and a beautiful giant screen. So if you're weighing the ZR for a multi-camera RED workflow, or just as a compact AB cam, let me know in the comments what you're looking for and how you feel about this RED codec workflow. But before we wrap up, I want to real quick talk about the industry context of this particular camera, as well as the fact that now we have the URSA 12K LF and we have the Eterna from Fuji. We are starting to see more and more features that are traditionally considered high-end cinema features filtering down slowly into these medium range cameras. And the ZR's EVF-less box-style body invites a direct comparison to something like the Sony FX3, which I think most people would consider at its price and where it is in the market is probably the top selection right now for cinema cameras at that budget price. But it also compares well to the FX30 and the FX2. The ZR's price undercuts the FX2, lands far below the FX3, and offers considerably better specs than the FX30, and compares exceptionally well to the just released Canon C50, considering the fact that it's fanless, has IBIS, and is almost half the price, though without the XLR handle. But getting 6K 60, 12-bit RAW, internal 32-bit float for $2,200, even if you have questions about the micro HDMI port or the issue with the slots, this thing's price to capability ratio is very strong. It is a competitive field. Fuji's large format Eternal 55 coming in at what I think is actually a phenomenal price for what it is. Blackmagic's LF, same thing. They're definitely targeting different markets and different price points. But then you also see Sigma coming into the cinema world with a very well-priced cinema lens and these very fast prime lenses, as well as what Tamron might be bringing, more support for things like ProRes RAW. It is an extremely busy and exciting time for creators of all types. Whether you consider yourself a videographer, a content creator, an influencer, a vlogger, a filmmaker, or just an enthusiast, there's a lot out there to be excited for. And as this technology continues to be democratized and made available for more of us, it allows us to unlock more of our creative potential. And that is just exciting. Now, if you want to support what I'm doing here, you can consider becoming a channel member. It's $1. And if you're looking to book a photo or video session, all the details are down below, including the links to some of the gear that I talked about in this video, along with my own gear lists. Now, using those links do help support the channel. Those are affiliate links, but as always, the easiest way to support the channel is just to hit like and subscribe. Those are always free, and they go a long way to helping me grow here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.